Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. And I'm back. I have returned on after an unforeseen hiatus. Really, it was not really my plan, but then it kind of just panned out this way. But let's not get too hung up on this. I am back. Chelsea are back. The Premier League is back. But unfortunately, it wasn't a great first day because we were held to a 0-0 draw. Ukhrud, thank you for turning up. Maresca out. He's not very happy, but we'll get into that. H says back to reality. Unfortunately, it is back to reality. I'm not really pleased by this performance. I can't lie. Like I'm disappointed. Like, I don't know. They sold me a bit of a false dream in these two preseason games that we had. From that perspective, compared to that was really disappointing day. A lot of the players, I mean, to be honest, there was Cucurella, Caicedo, and then outside of two bad moments with passing mistakes, Acheampong. Other than that, nobody was anywhere near good enough, really. And I'm not even going to say that Acheampong was anywhere near good enough because of those two mistakes. And Caicedo also made a couple of mistakes on the ball as well. So I don't know, man. It's not really. Dylan says, even though our first game of the season ended in a draw, at least we got a point. Well, that's the optimism we need, my bro. At least we got a draw. Well, I guess you got to look at it that way. The last two games the Palace played, if you count the Community Shield as a real game, well, they won two trophies. They won the FA Cup, of course, against Man City, and now they won the Community Shield against Liverpool. Even though against Liverpool, that obviously ended in a draw as well, they're clearly not that easy to beat. Firehead says, this guy with Maresca out needs to leave the stream ASAP. Honestly, don't leave, Ukhrud, but please change your opinion because this is a bit mental. Now, StreamYard has changed a little bit since I last streamed, so you're going to have to bear with me to some extent because I'm going to be figuring things out as we go along. H says, top four is a myth. We'll be lucky to get top four, and Carragher is right. We won't even get out of the Champions League phase. I completely disagree with the Champions League phase idea, if I'm honest, bro, because, well, the league phase itself won't be that problematic, in my opinion. Like, we might have to go through like the extra stage, but I don't think we'll go out. And top four, I'm actually quite confident it will make top four. But again, we'll see. Obviously, this is the kind of reaction that we're going to get right now, isn't it? Like, people are not going to be happy. People are already going to like drill the the bell of doom, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Uzaiya says, in a way, I'm happy. Now all the people who hype up Chelsea every season can shut up and we can focus on improving step by step. The problem is the club currently allowing the team to improve step by step? I have my questions. I really, truly have my questions. At left wing is an absolute shambles, if I'm being honest. Now, I'm sure Gittins is talented and got in God knows when. I'm sure he'll be a good player. But right now, it's a shambles. And he's not even half the player that Jadon Sancho was. Now, Jadon Sancho, it was his decision that he's not staying. I'm aware of that. But we still didn't find the appropriate player. We overspent crazy on Gittins. He's now absolutely useless, really. And now we're signing Garnacho. Because Gittins is so poor, Garnacho will play most of the season. So here we are, which is obviously a bit of a shambles. And then we got the centre-back situation. But we will get into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. Adar, shout out you. He says, big up, streams are back after the summer, even if the players aren't. That is the problem. That is the part that I don't enjoy, that I'm not particularly happy about. Yeah, the players. It's honestly, like, if I'm being totally honest, what we saw today is kind of exactly what I expected in our game against Leverkusen and AC Milan. In those two preseason games, I was like, we've had 4 days of training, 6 days of training for the second game. Obviously, we're not going to be that great. We're not going to be ready. But instead, we looked super sharp. We looked super ready. But now we come to the Premier League and we looked slow. We looked sluggish. We looked lethargic. We just didn't look up to speed, up to pace. And now the big question is, was that just we kind of, we had a little early burst of energy when preseason for us started, but we exuded all that already against in the two friendlies? Or is it just the big difference between, well, number one, friendlies, but number two, non-Premier League teams and Premier League teams? Is that what we got to see today? It's crazy, isn't it? Like, it's genuinely, but really, this is what I would have expected from us. Like, we've only had 2 weeks of preseason, not even 2 full weeks of preseason, while Palace have had 7 or 8 weeks of preseason. These teams usually started on around July 4th. Okay, Palace won the FA Cup, so probably a week later. So still at least 6 weeks of preseason, while we've had not even 2. So really, I'm not surprised by what I saw, but because we looked so good in the 2 friendlies last week, I think all of our hopes just went up a little bit. just went up a little bit. H says, playing like this, we don't need to play Real Madrid or Barcelona to drop points. Trust me, we are battering Real Madrid. Like, it's not even a question. Obviously, by the end of the season, we might not, once Xabi Alonso has figured these lot out. But the Real Madrid that exists right now, absolutely no problem. We're absolutely horrible, just passing the ball for the sake of passing it. All right, H. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for commenting and, putting your thoughts across. And, I would love if everybody that's watching would put their thoughts on the game across as eloquently as H does. I disagree with you, bro, but at least you explained yourself. So I appreciate that. Clutch says, by the way, hello, Clutch. I hope you're well. I forgot you do these alone now. Well, sometimes I'll do them alone. Sometimes I will not do them alone. I will try to get much more into the streaming again rather than just the post-match stream. So hopefully you'll see a bit more of me this week, which should be exciting. So if you're happy about that, go and hit the like button down below straight away. And please subscribe if you haven't done that yet. That would be nice. Gear says, Chelsea buy players after players and still mediocre. Yeah, and when we actually need a player, we decide to not buy a player. So yeah, it's not brilliant. It's not brilliant. Now, let's open FOTMob. Unfortunately, they're not official partners of this stream, but I would love them to be. So, FOTMob, if you're watching, get in touch. Big up, Laos. Big up, Ricky. Appreciate you, my bro. Now, I have a big question for you guys. You guys, please need to help me out. Do you prefer the FOTMob screen in white, in light, or do you prefer it in dark? This is dark, obviously. I assume you get the point. But what do you prefer? Because I feel like I myself prefer looking at the dark one. But maybe for a stream like this, the light one is better, maybe slightly easier to read. And also, I don't know, maybe it keeps you up, I don't know, and interested for a bit longer. So let me know, please, in the chat, which kind of design you prefer. Ricky says, I woke up at 5 a.m. for this. Oh, my God. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for this. It was a extremely boring game. Now, part of that was, like H says, it is just a passing the ball for the sake of it, no urgency, no desire, no hunger, no nothing to actually go forward and score. Part of it is that. Part of that is also Crystal Palace trying their very best to make exactly this happen. So, it's obviously down to Palace. They slowed down every throw-in, every free kick, every goal kick. Took them at least 20, 30 seconds. Like, at the very, very least, it took them 20, 30 seconds, which is just, stupid. And, they made everything out. They made so much out of every single contact. It was just a frustrating game that we never really had the opportunity to really get into a flow with, which is really unfortunate. But, that's kind of sometimes how it goes. Nino, Chelsea, says, inevitably, maybe? Veritably? I don't know. Shame going recruiting Donnarumma. I'm not really sure what you're trying to say. But yes, we might as well talk about it. What on earth is Sanchez doing? I mean, so, okay. Eberechi Eze, that's his name, other way around. Obviously, we all thought on his way to Spurs. Last night, rumors that he wasn't even going to be in the squad today. All of a sudden, he started. Hey, brother, I'd just be here. You just be there, bro. I appreciate you. But yeah, all of a sudden, he started. They get a free kick. All started by a poor mistake from the back by Josh Acheampong just misplacing his pass straight to the Palace player. They end up getting a free kick. And I am literally screaming at my TV, Sanchez, where you stood. Just make sure, for the love of God, you cover your goalkeeper side. What does he do? He stands exactly in the middle. Then the shot is straight through the wall, or not through the wall, but through the other people covering Sanchez's side, and it goes in straight next to his face. It's an absolute mistake. Now, it got disallowed because Guehi tried to push Caicedo out of the way to let the shot go through in that area, but by doing so, he encroached the 1 yard area around the wall, and you're not allowed to be within 1 yard of the wall by the defending team as the attacker, and therefore the goal got correctly disallowed. Now, I will say, I think we got lucky in that sense that I've never seen a goal ruled out for that. Now, obviously, you have to say, how often does it truly happen that, number one, a free kick is scored, but number two, a free kick is scored where this makes a difference. If Eberechi Eze put it over the wall into the top corner, I very much doubt they're going to disallow this goal for this reason. You know what I mean? But there you go. That's how it went. But Sanchez, just doing a Sanchez. And it's just typical. I still don't want Donnarumma because I don't think Donnarumma is really much better than Sanchez in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, I saw Sanchez punt so many balls today and not really do that much playing out from the back. If we're going to do that, you might as well get Donnarumma. I can't even lie. So, yeah, it's disappointing in that sense. No one has still told me whether you prefer white or dark for FOTMob, so I'll keep it at light for now. H is not stopping with the with the negativity. Spend 2 billion to sit here and talk about how Palace are so easily able to stop us. It's not about giving credit to Palace, because with the money we've spent, we should be better than them. Yeah, and so should Liverpool and so should Man City, but still Liverpool lost the Community Shield to them, and still Man City lost the FA Cup final to them. It's football, bro. It's football. It's not that simple. But at the same time, like I say, please do not forget that we had less than 2 weeks of preseason while Palace had 6. Like, if people just think this is not going to be a problem, just buzzing because we won the Club World Cup and just pretending this isn't going to be a thing, you know what I mean? That is problematic. Like, you need to consider this. But also, we made a lot of changes to the squad again, even if the starting 11 only had 2 different players in there. But, you know, then we had injuries on top of that. You could just feel a big difference with Levi Colwill missing. But yeah, there's a lot of things to get through. Rishab. I'm gonna try to call your name Rishab. Sorry if I butchered it. Snoozefest. Palmer was invisible and looked lethargic and out of ideas. He did, as did pretty much the whole team. Uzier says too many players didn't turn up. Palmer, Enzo, etc. Absolutely. The shot was in the middle of the goal. Exactly, Kutyo. Exactly. Thanks for your response. Well, Nino, you're very welcome. Hey, keep your thoughts, keep your messages coming, guys. Obviously, if you have anything to say, anything you want to ask me, but make sure you always do your best to, like, elaborate so I can actually go into and understand where you're coming from, essentially. Edgar Agu, whatever. Very disappointing performance by Chelsea. I didn't see the urgency in their performance. Glad is draw, though. I'm not glad it's a draw, but I hear where you're coming from. Man City is washed. Okay. But they still made it to the FA Cup final. So, do you know what I mean? And still then lost. Dark Pop Mob looks better, in my opinion, but either is fine. Okay. You think it looks better? I mean, I agree it looks better. I'm just thinking whether it's maybe easier to pay attention to in light. That's kind of where I was coming from. Palace set back the whole second half. Sure, they did. Enzo and Cucurella looked disinterested. So now, I completely disagree on Cucurella. Completely. On Enzo Fernandez, I wouldn't use the word disinterested, but I understand. So why is everybody talking about a title race if we should accept being shit because of the Club World Cup? I don't think anyone in their right frame of mind is talking about a title race, if I'm being honest. Like, it's the media talking us into a title race, in my opinion. Like, I know there's been a few creators that kind of got slightly ahead of themselves during preseason games and the Club World Cup final, obviously. But realistically, I will still do a Premier League prediction stream. You're thinking, what are you doing? This league has already started. I don't really see the value in doing predictions before the transfer window is shut, because everything can change. So yeah, that's why I will do this as soon as the transfer window is shut, probably the September 1st during international break. I will do a full and extensive Premier League prediction stream with Pys, with all the guys. Max P says, I knew this would be a tough game, as we all should have done. You know, if anybody thought Palace would be a pushover today, that's silly. Yeah, definitely not that simple. Crystal Palace are a good side, but still a poor performance. Yeah, no, 100%. Now, we have a disadvantage with the preseason. We just didn't play well, let's be honest. And they are a good team. And all those combinations. I mean, last season, did we lose twice? What was our result against Palace last season? Actually, shouldn't that say it somewhere? Head to head. Well, no, we got a draw both times last season as well. Brilliant. A 1-1 at home and a 1-1 away. Well, here we are. That tells you everything you need to know, really. I will just catch up on a couple more of your comments, and then we'll go into the details of the stats and everything else. Thanks, big up from France. Well, shout out to you in France, mate. So disappointed by Maxton. Wow, Gittins is trash. Do you think it's actually an improvement on Sancho and Noni, etc.? Absolutely not. But I said this the second we got interested, that as of today, I think in a year or two, we can be better than both of them are. But I think as of today, he's worse than both. And by a bit of a distance, if I'm being totally honest. So, yeah, I never really understood why people got so gassed for it at all, if I'm being honest. And I just got slandered on Twitter, because obviously I didn't do content on here. So I was talking about things on Twitter, and people were just straight on me. Like, killing my head every time I said a single bad word about Gittins. But he's just not it. Like, he's a good player, but he's so raw. The fact that he's our starting left winger is a joke. Like, if he came in to be a backup to, say, someone like Sancho, or I don't know if we signed Rodrigo, obviously that's over the top, but just as an example, that would have been good. That would have been fine. Expensive, you know, for the price that we got Gittins for. But in principle, okay with that. Starting left winger, absolutely nowhere near good enough. He's not even Dortmund's starting left winger. Now he's Chelsea, so you're taking the piss. Maxton says, lazy subs. Not sure about that. Yeah, the Club World Cup deceives everyone, just like the Champions League win. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but there you go. All the toxic positivity about how good we are, and when it's time to back up the talk, we show our true colors, and everyone starts defending and condoning this. It's not about defending and condoning this. It's about setting your expectations right. And if you're being totally honest, you should have seen this coming. Like I'm telling you, you should have seen this coming. Like, I'm not saying you should have seen us come and draw it, but if you were going into the season expecting us to play like we did against PSG every game, or for us to play against like we did against Leverkusen and AC Milan every game, it's going to be a problem when we face low blocks. We didn't just magically find a solution to beating low blocks. PSG didn't do that against us. Leverkusen didn't do that against us. Well, to an extent. But AC Milan did it when they were down to 10 men. And we also struggle to kind of create chances against that 10-man deep block of AC Milan. It's going to be an issue. And we're going to have to get better at it. We've got a lot of new players again that need to adapt and, find their feet in the system and, this and that. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Surely we could have got someone better with that money or a little more. Exactly. Gittins is nowhere near it. I agree. I think Estevao is levels above Gittins, to be fair. 100%. Like, he's miles and miles beyond. Absolutely miles and miles beyond. But anyways, let's get into, folks, to start with the facts, the overall, view. We can see the momentum. Palace had a very little something around the 19th minute. That must have been when their goal got disallowed, I would assume. No, that wasn't the 13th minute, actually. So a little bit of momentum just after that. But in the grand scheme of things, you can see where the momentum was. You can see where the expected goals were. We had 19 shots. Supposedly only one big chance, which I find utterly baffling to believe because, well, Trevor Chalobah missed from here. No, that wasn't Trevor Chalobah. Which one was Chalobah then? This one was Chalobah. How he can miss that and how he can only have 0.09 XG is absolutely beyond me. And Estevao had a really bad one as well that he should have scored. And then obviously towards the end, Andrey Santos. So for me, 3 big chances, if you ask me. But there you go. When you look at a few more of the, physical... Oh, look, we have running performances now, which I'm very happy to see. We ran less than Palace. Not surprising, but it's not far off. We did some more walking. They did more running. We did more sprinting than them, though. I'd be intrigued to, learn more about how I use these stats, how I've used stats. It's a new feature on FotMob, so I think fantastic, by the way. Absolutely brilliant that FotMob have brought this in. Top speed in total was a 32.4. I wonder who that was. Probably Neto, I would assume. But there you go. Expected goals, 1.8, 1.1 out of open play. We honestly, we looked dangerous from a lot of the corners, but also not quite dangerous enough, which is the disappointing bit. But yeah, only 3 shots on target in the whole game with so much possession, 71% possession with 19 shots. So the shooting just wasn't it. Obviously, we had a lot of shots blocked, but yeah, it was just what a lot of you guys have said already. Oh, what do we see here down with the top stats? I mean, yeah, the ratings, I guess. Let's go to the lineup. Obviously, here it's drawn up as a 4-2-3-1. I would just shift it around like we essentially used it in reality, just to give you guys a glimpse or an idea of how it was. Not most of you will probably be aware of this anyway, but just in case you're not, this is essentially how we played. A bit of a pretty much a 3-1-6 shape, which we play very, very often against back fives, because the way Maresca plays, he pretty much always just wants an overload compared to the opposition in the relevant areas of the pitch. And because that's exactly what you create against the back five, you essentially want 6 attackers. So you have João Pedro, the wingers, Palmer, and then you've got the 2 number 8s, which in possession is Cucurella and Enzo, essentially forming a 6-man attack. Now, obviously, this doesn't look quite like that in reality, but essentially, with certain, sometimes this guy will push up and sometimes this guy will push up. Essentially, you have 8 attackers, 1 singular defensive midfielder, and then a back 3 at the back. Josh Acheampong playing as the central of the back 3. Is the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge a concern? Is it because we have the oldest season ticket holders and tourists? Because it's atrocious, really concerning. Well, I think what you saw today with the atmosphere is kind of just what you see in the kind of messages that H is putting in the chat. We won the Club World Cup. We did well in the preseason games. There was a lot of hype. And people got excited. And then when it wasn't that exciting, honestly, I already take the fact that they didn't groan and boo today for the passing out from the back. So it was, in a way, better than before. But yeah, it's still not ideal. It's still not ideal. And yes, Age, I absolutely do. That's quite literally the purpose, the definition, and the point of a supporter. But yeah, I know that not everybody necessarily sees it this way. But yeah, this is essentially the lineup we had. And I'm not going to do player ratings. We've gone past that. But I want to talk about the individuals. Obviously, we talked about Sanchez. Looked really bad for that goal that luckily for him got disallowed. If it hadn't gotten disallowed, well, we would be straight on Sanchez's case, and I would be absolutely livid, if I'm being totally honest. I wouldn't be able to contain myself with him. But unfortunately, or fortunately for him, it didn't cost us the game and everything else. So I guess that is something. But other than that, I don't have too much to complain about. He played a couple of decent passes. He played a couple of bad passes. I mean, swings and roundabouts, I guess. Chalobah, I thought was good. I was happy with Chalobah. Josh Acheampong. What do we do with Josh Acheampong? I need to go back to the FODMOB screen now, and I want to look at a few stats, because obviously sometimes I have my opinion from watching the game, but sometimes then you need to kind of figure out, do the stats support my thoughts in my head, or am I wrong? Just to quickly go on Chalobah. Interesting that it always says the top speed here, and the distance covered is brilliant. Big up FODMOB. I love this. I absolutely love this. Completed the most passes in the match, so that's pretty good. 90 out of 99, so that's good going. 91% accuracy. Look at this. How much running, how much walking, how this fantastic. Absolutely fantastic FODMOB, by the way. Please sponsor me. Accurate long balls, 4 out of 8. He played some nice over the top balls. Really nice ones. Josh Acheampong, though, won the most duels in the game. So he clearly did something right, pretty good top speed, pretty much same distance covered as Chalobah. Strong passing accuracy, 93%, 81 of 87, but obviously 2 really bad ones, which nearly conceded us a goal. But yeah, similar stats in the grand scheme of things to Chalobah. But I want to get to the defensive stats. 2 out of 2 tackles, 5 clearances, 2 header clearances, 1 interception, 8 defensive contributions, 4 out of 5 ground duels, 5 out of 7 aerial duels. Strong. Now, he made 2 mistakes on the ball. So now I'd really want to hear, guys, what did you guys make of Josh Acheampong? Because obviously we're in this position right now where Levi Colwill did his ACL. And because he did his ACL, we are now in trouble. But then not only that, Colwill's direct replacement at central centre-back in build-up, Tosin, also picked up a small injury. Now, it's only a small injury, and he might even be back next week, if not probably the week after. But it shouldn't take too long. But yeah, Maresca wants a central centre-back. The sporting directors and the club say we have enough players. But do we? We have Acheampong. Fofana was on the bench today, but an unused sub, so not quite ready yet. Padishio is currently still injured. And Acheampong is potentially the only one to be the central centre-back. I'm not really sure. Now, on the one hand, it could bring out a best player. It could bring out a huge breakout season for Josh Acheampong. But at the same time, what I'm a little bit worried about is that the bit that I'm worried about is you throw him in, he makes mistakes. Okay, today it didn't cost us. But if either of those 2 mistakes lead to a goal and then we lose the game 1-0, the hate and the criticism this kid is going to get is going to be off the charts. He's then probably going to get dropped for somebody, and then it kind of ruins him. Now, if he stands up to it, if he plays like today outside of the 2 bad mistakes, outside of the 2 misplaced passes, he's going to be fine, and he could be an absolute world star, and we could be laughing our way to the bank. Well, hopefully not in the way of selling, but just by having a fantastic player from the academy by not investing now. But at the same time, if the manager so clearly asked for it, I just think it's risky, because while I disagree with H that top 4 is a myth, I don't think it's a given. And I think some people, and I think the club to an extent, see it as a complete given that we are making top 4 next season, not top 5. It's almost certainly going to bring Champions League again. Now, my expectations are certainly there, but I just think we've not necessarily made the squad better, with a few exceptions, but then plus obviously the injuries on top. I wouldn't say the squad is better. And because of that, plus Champions League now rather than the Conference League, I'm not 1,000% guaranteed that we're making top 5. So as much as I'm like, okay, back in Acheampong is all well and good, but if in the end we then don't make the Champions League, and because we suffer someone that can help us build from the back, it's not going to be ideal, is it? It's not going to be ideal. Let me see a couple of things here. Josh was good. H said, Couture Criminal says, moment of the game was the tackle by Josh on Munoz. Absolutely. That maybe really was the moment of the game. This kid is a serious talent. Clean sheet against Palace. Really solid for Prem debut. Yeah. I mean, yeah. He had those 2 bad passes, and then he got made look silly a little bit by Mateta on one occasion. But at the same time, H also has a point in a way where he kind of arguably was maybe our best player. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think that's true. Jacuzzi, I saw it as well from Italian media. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. I think the club briefed, we have to stay humble and make sure we get top 4. Yeah, but we have to make sure we actually get it. You know what I mean? Palace closed all channels and were consistent. Yeah, they defended well. We have to, like I say, we have to give credit. Palace are not bad. at exactly this. Oliver Glasner is a fantastic manager. How do you think he got Frankfurt to a Europa League final and won that? How do you think he did that? How do you think he got Frankfurt to a, what was it? Maybe it was a Conference League, or was it even in the Champions League? He took them to the quarterfinals or something crazy. Like, crazy job. And then Palace wins the FA Cup as well. You know what I'm saying? They're not easy to beat. That's all I'm saying. But I'm glad that the consensus in the chat about Acheampong is fairly positive. Reece James, I thought was very good. Harsh yellow card that he got. I didn't really feel like that was justified, if I'm being honest. Nice top speed, if I'm honest. Like, you know, over 30 is always good to see. Not as much distance covered as the other guys. Obviously, played 10 minutes less, but still, that's going to be interesting to monitor across the season. How does Reece James's distance covered progress as we move on? Supposedly, he created the most chances with 2, so that's pretty good going, I guess. So yeah, accurate passes, crosses 2 out of 6 could be better, but you know my stance on crosses, guys. It's always like the cross is half the pass, the cross itself, and half is the movement and the timing of the attacker in the middle. So it's not only on the cross whether a cross gets completed or not. Accurate long balls, 5 out of 9, you'll take that. 2 out of 5 ground duels is honestly not as good as I would have liked, but one of those ground duels that was given as a foul against him, in my opinion, was never a free kick. On Caicedo, again, I'm going to be distracted by these distance and running stats every single time. But yeah, 61 out of 65 passes, not quite his very best, but still I would say from the outfield players that aren't defenders, I guess, still our best player, I would argue. 4 out of 4 long balls, 1 out of 1 dribble, you know what I mean? Like, okay, 1 out of 5 tackles is actually quite poor for him, but 7 out of 9 ground duels is fantastic. Who I missed, Marco Correa. Distance covered, of course, is going to be up there with some of the most fairly decent top speed as well. Good passing, barely gave the ball away, I suppose. Distance covered, again, we covered that. Quite a bit of running, I guess, in terms of that. 7.8 kilometers running. He just doesn't stop, does he? But yeah, 2 out of 3 long balls is nice. 1 out of 2 tackles, 4 out of 6 ground duels you'll take. 3 out of 6 aerial duels for his size is not too bad either, is it? But again, it's how everybody's gonna you know, have the perspective on this. Max P says Palace were well set up. The team looked strong physically. Yeah. And again, these are the things that we are lacking. We are a young team, miss physicality. We missed probably our, you know, Josh is tall, Josh Acheampong is tall, but it's not Levi Colwill or it's not Tosin, is it? Like in terms of physicality. I also think both João Pedro and Delap look kind of weak in that perspective, but there you go. We'll get into those. Edgar says Josh deputized very well. Defenders make mistakes anyway. He did a good job. Defenders do make mistakes, but defenders don't make mistakes if you want to aim for things like winning the league. I've got to say that. You know what I mean? Like our defense, like Chelsea conceded the second most goals caused by own individual errors of anyone in the league last season. That's not ideal. Palace literally beat the Prem champs. They're really freaking good. Exactly. Ricky, that's fine, but we are at home. Yeah, no, we should win. Nobody's happy with the draw. But it's still like, you know, people are pointing it like ages doing like we're absolutely horrid and we'll be shocking all season. Like there's a middle ground. You know, you can be unhappy about the result. You can be unhappy about the performance. And you can still take the game with realism, if that makes sense. Enzo Fernandez, though, we got to talk about him. He was dreadful. Like he was really bad. Now, I know he only played 79 minutes, but again, a lot less distance covered than, for example, Caicedo, who covered. That's not even true. 9.4 for Caicedo. I expected a bit more there. I can't lie. And Enzo covered 9.0, even though he played 10 minutes there. So actually, that seems to be the same. But he just seems so slow and lethargic. And there was poor touches and poor passes and a poor cross early on. Even 6 misplaced passes is normal for Enzo Fernandez. Spent a lot of time running and sprinting and everything. Not the fastest, but also, like, he's not super, super slow. But yeah, bad cross on a 1 out of 3 long balls. What's happening there? Why is there no tackles? 0 out of 1 ground duels. Only 1 aerial duel contested. In general, duels that he was involved with, just poor. You know what I mean? Look at how little defensive numbers he had. And yes, obviously, he plays as one of our more forward players, but he still has to come back and help out defensively. Enzo Fernandez was really disappointed with today. Honestly, as much as obviously Andrey Santos messed up a lot by not scoring that chance that he had fairly late in the game, I think Andrey Santos maybe even has a case to start next week. Obviously, if Maresca sees that Enzo looks much better during training in the week and will look sharper next week, it's maybe different. But, you know, as of what we've seen now and so far, I would happily say start Andrey Santos over Enzo next week. After the Andrey Santos shot, I can't even say Enzo should be dropped. Yeah, well, you're saying exactly that. Daniel, appreciate you for tuning in. What has Raymond said? This failure is fully on Maresca. No. I mean, how is that please the case? Raymond, please elaborate. And Couture, you agree. So please elaborate on that as well. How do you see that this is just purely on Maresca? What should Maresca have done so differently that would have changed this today? Like, I would really love to see that explanation. Enzo was too much on the right. Maybe, but that's the shape we play. Again, I'll bring it up quickly again, Max, if you maybe haven't seen it earlier. Against the back five, we very often play this where we essentially have a 6-man forward line. So we essentially outman them by one. Now, obviously, what happens is they push one of their midfielders even deeper and almost create a back 6, back 7 so that they try to outman us again. But that's the principal idea. That's why we play this almost midfield diamond with 2 8s that push very high a lot against those kind of teams. Which has its reasons, but I don't think you can blame Maresca for the slowness, for the lethargicness of the players. You cannot blame Maresca. Like, I think, for example, we missed Nicholas Jackson quite a lot today, but whatever the situation with his potential transfer is, he would have been suspended today anyway. So, and then, Maresca keeps asking for a new centre-back, didn't get one. And I think, yes, Acheampong did really well in terms of duels, but how much better would our playing out from the back have been, and how much more line-breaking passes would we have got with, say, Colwill available or a different player available? And how many more chances would that have allowed us to create? I think you can't forget those kind of facts. That's all I'm saying. Look at the game. Delap would have been better starting, maybe. But I can't lie. Obviously, he had that one shot, but he was also poor. Like, he was also too slow. He was also too weak. But yeah, we need a centre-back. I don't feel confident with the centre-backs we got back. We got it back to Gaffer, get him a new centre-back. I don't want to put pressure on Josh. Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because the media reports are suggesting that essentially to buy a centre-back, we need to sell a centre-back, which I don't really understand. Like, if you manage to get rid of Nkunku and Jackson, that surely should free up plenty of financials to sign Garnacho, Simmons, and even a centre-back, in my opinion. Now, Bournemouth obviously really want to sign Acheampong. Would you want to send Bournemouth on loan? Acheampong on loan to Bournemouth? Would they even be happy with one without a buy option? I don't know. But I just feel like it all so much depends on Fofana's fitness. So that's why I would keep Josh, because I think with Fofana's fitness, Josh will still play a lot this season. But I don't really want him to have to be the central centre-back all the time, because it just puts pressure on him in ways that kind of isn't fair right now on him, if I'm being honest. And I just fear that it's going to kill him, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, Palmer is a difficult one, man, because we know how good Palmer is. And thankfully, he had that Club World Cup performance where he proved how good he is. Once again, after obviously a poor second half of the season, hasn't scored an open play goal in the Premier League since January. Only one other goal in the league since then, which was a penalty. He was very invisible today. Didn't get on the ball as much as you would like. How many touches did he have? 48. I mean, it's not that little, but only one dribble attempted, none successful, 0 out of 4 crosses. Isn't ideal. 0 out of 4 shots. They were all wide and over, which is kind of poor. He tried hard defensively, he tried to come deep, but it wasn't really working for him. Palace just took him out of the game really, really well. So honestly, Cole was also poor today. He was also poor. And Jamie Gittins, man, I had no idea how he got a 7 here. Was the most accurate passer, 100%. Okay. Played 14 passes all backwards. I mean, if I'm being honest, as much as I'm critical of Gittins here, and I think I have absolutely every right to be critical of Gittins today, it's essentially the exact same problems that any left winger had for us last season, whether it was Jadon Sancho, whether it was in the beginning of the season with Mykhailo Mudryk, whether it was then later on Oni Madueke. What happens on the left every single time is, and I saw Pys tweet this, and maybe I'll actually bring this up quickly, purely because, and I don't want to slag Pys here by any means, but it's just an opinion that I know a lot of people will have, and I think a lot of the chat will support this very idea as well. So I'll highlight this here. I'll just quickly make it big so you guys can actually see the tweet from Pys. One observation today was that for some reason we were very reluctant to play wide. Just constantly looked at Neto, Gittins, and Estevao and decided to turn back and pass to the centre-back. Really, really weird. And the other thing you'll see is when Gittins and Neto and even Estevao got the ball, they very, very often passed it backwards. But why? Why? You must understand why we do this. The reason we do this is because the manager, his idea of how to play football in an ideal world will get the wingers into a 1v1 situation against one defender. But as soon as the winger is up against 2 defenders, Maresca wants them to pass back. Because Maresca knows the likelihood of beating your man when you're 2 against 1 is very small. Now, sure, your Hazards, maybe sometimes an Estevao, sometimes a Palmer, will try this. Sometimes they will succeed. But for the large majority, Maresca wants them to turn back and build again to open the opportunity, maybe on the other side, to have the 1 against 1. But against the back 5, that's much more difficult to create. That's why we do the whole thing of pushing the 2 8s up, so they can hopefully keep the wide centre back on each side occupied. But when Palace, either with the winger and the fullback, or the one of the midfielders and the fullback, or the centre back and the fullback double up on our winger, Maresca doesn't want them to go. Maresca wants them to keep it in that scenario. And this is where you can feel that this is where the big effects are shown of being slow and being lethargic, because you take too long to get the ball to your attacking players in the right moments when they need the ball. Now, Gittins had a few of those moments and just failed to ever get past this man and do anything with it, which was really unfortunate. He was the only one that got that. Obviously, Estevao beat his man on a couple of occasions. Pedro Neto beat his man on a couple of occasions. There was a couple of crosses as well that just unfortunately no one got in the end of. You can't be too mad at it. On another day, one of them gets on the end of it and we score a goal. But yeah, I was really not impressed by Gittins. Same feeling I really had after the 2 friendlies. And the problem that our other left winger signing is going to be Garnacho, and I'm not sure if better than Gittins, really, but he's going to play a lot, and I don't really rate either of them that highly, at least to be our starters right now. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating. Pedro Neto, for me, one of the best players that we had today. He reached the highest top speed in the game as well, with 32.4 kilometers an hour. Covered the least distance, though. But, it's not far off with 9.3. But, yeah, I wonder if I go to the running stats. He spent more time sprinting than anybody else did. So try sprinting 500 meters. You'll see how tired you are after that. But he wasn't great either. He just didn't give up. 12 crosses, even if only 3 of them were successful. Tried hard defensively as well. A couple of occasions he lost the ball, but made sure he won it back. So I don't have too many complaints about Neto, but it obviously still wasn't quite enough. João Pedro, though. I thought this was poor. Not me as well. On who? On what? Gittins, or what are you talking about? Please explain. Maza, sorry. My guy. Hello. Glad to have you back. Hope your holiday's been good. Yes, mate. Thank you. Appreciate you for tuning in again today. I appreciate it a lot. Okay. So, Couture has elaborated. Poor team selection handed initiative back to Palace. I think Estevao should have started. I think another option to help Caicedo, who is atrocious to build up play, and Neto was poor. I disagree that Neto was poor, but would you start Estevao? Obviously, you're sat here now in hindsight. We drew the game, and Estevao looked better than the other players when he came off the bench. But do you really think starting a Brazilian, 18 years old, basically on his first game, is the move? You really think that's the move? Palmer has to play on the right? No, guys. Palmer doesn't have to play on the right against these kind of teams. Against low blocks, if you give him the ball on the right, he does nothing. And if you go back to the Poch games, Palmer also had this issue when he played right wing against low blocks on the Poch. The problem is, obviously, he often got penalties and scored from those. So that's why kind of in the stats, you didn't really see this. But he struggled against that from the right. Now, in certain games like against PSG, we might even do that again. But not against low blocks. It's never going to happen. Whenever he drifts to the right, he makes things happen. But not when there's no space. And he just wouldn't have had space. I think in the Prem, he does better out wide. I know so many of you think this, but I just disagree with it. And Palmer came wide and in at times and still didn't do anything. Palmer has the freedom to move. Palmer has the freedom to go where he thinks he can find space the best. But he didn't move to the wide areas because he knows he isn't getting the space in the wide areas in this case. I think we look leggy today, absolutely. Majority of our own fans overhyping our attackers and got gas thinking he was going to challenge for the title this season, and shown today we won't, and are years away from it. Not sure about years, but just the right signings and the right development. But there you go. I think we missed a big chance to win this game 2-0. I always imagine a draw first half, but thought we had the firepower to win. What happened? Exactly what you said. We had 3 big chances, in my opinion. The Chalobah miss in the first half, where he cast for a corner for absolutely no reason, has to score it. The Estevao one, bad first touch, or laid off to Palmer, should be a goal. And then Andrey Santos, those were the big chances. We were at a point where we did not have a defender good at giving line-splitting passes. The coach should have come up with another approach to progress the ball. And how do you imagine that happening? So do you imagine like a different player dropping into the centre-back role, or do you imagine changing the whole system completely without preparation of doing that? Like, when? Like, so you think we just have a different system ready? Like, no, we have a system of play that has adaptations, but has a principal structure. You can't just change system completely. Well, you can, but then it's just not going to work that well. Yeah, but there you go. We can not overplay Estevao too much. First season on this continent and physique is not yet ready to endure a full Premier League season, playing game in, game out. I agree. We had the men really wide, but didn't get the ball to them. Yep. So how about you just push the fullbacks up, which instead of inverting Cuckoo, have them overlap to stop wingers from getting double tag teamed? Because that still happens, because then they just triple up on you because the incoming winger fullback doesn't drag a player away. I'm not really sure how much it changes, but I guess some days I wish we had Simone Inzaghi or Luis Enrique. It's painful to watch us play. Yeah. Did you watch Luis Enrique against Spurs? Just asking. There was a gap between Caicedo and Enzo and the defense. Yes, there was, on purpose, but there you go. So I need to catch up on a lot of these comments here. Bloody hell. Again, should not start for now. Pedro left, Estevao right. Yeah, but you can't start Estevao every game, guys. You can't. Pedro held the line too much. He wasn't dropping like in preseason. Yeah. Starting Estevao wouldn't have been good. Not right wing, just right side of the pitch. Okay, I hear that, but again, it's system related. It's system related, right? Like, because you have 2 8s, you can't really have Palmer in the right 8 area unless you make Enzo move to the central area. But do you want that? And Maresca has, like, there's a reason why Maresca wants a 6 attack and not a 5, because you are out. They can mark you man for man if you do that, and then it makes it even more difficult. But I get it. Calm down. We ain't able to afford new centre back or get elite left winger. But Garnacho is coming. It doesn't make sense. Best not happen. Yeah, of course we can afford these things. Of course we can. Just don't spend unnecessary money in other places where you don't need to spend it. That's all you need to do, and then your problem is sorted. Or, just an idea, figure out a front of shirt sponsor which gives you 60 million. But no, we have been able to figure that out. Oh, we can't afford things now. Well, maybe with the sponsor we could. Just saying. What centre back would you bring in the summer? Ribeiro, probably. Ribeiro from Lille would probably be the guy I'm looking at. Just so like a middle ground player who's good, not that young, 25, can play out from the back. He's very both-footed, but he's not quite of the level where he necessarily like causes a problem once Colwill is back. That's why I would go for that type of player. I'd like Guehi as well, but he seems to obviously be going to Liverpool. Would you sign a centre back on loan? Oh, definitely permanent, and then eventually you just get rid of Badia Shil when the problem sorts itself out. Palace nullified our tactics by not pressing. I mean, yeah, that's what every low block does against us, right? As a coach, we cannot have one system. If the system does not work, what happens? No, I agree with that. And we have adaptations to the system if we need to change the system. But you don't change the whole principal idea of the system. At least Maresca doesn't. Maybe you think you do, but Maresca chooses not to do that. Whether it's right or wrong, up to you. But, you know, the upsides of that are the way we played against PSG. The downsides of that are maybe a game like today sometimes, you know. Worth that. PSG showed the world how not to play against us. It's very true. What a crap game to watch. So frustrated seeing rivals start off with 3 points, and there it is, Chelsea back to old ways. How's even the Arsenal United game going? 13 minutes, and Arsenal already leading through Calafiori. Brilliant. That's nice. Very, very nice. The point is, if they're a triple team, then that gives us more space and the most dangerous player in Palmer. Very true. But again, is it like if you overlap and you have your fullback that high constantly, where is the defensive shape stability coming from? If you do that on both sides, where is it? Because we have a 3 and Caicedo now. So you need to either take Enzo out as well, and then what you're going to get to is the same issues that we had, for example, in Thames under Tuchel, when we then complained about box presence. And then we talk about box presence, and we're like, oh, we play so many crosses, we do so much on the wing, and then there's no one in the box to get on the end of it. It's one of those, isn't it? Catch 22, slow, boring, unimaginative. Maresca better pull his finger out. Okay, let's all play Maresca. Brilliant. I loved it. It's so funny, man. The man got just nominated for Ballon d'Or for best manager of the year. And we're like, geez, shit. A good coach must watch the opponent and tweak. Maresca does that. Very, very, very much so. But he just doesn't tweak it the way you think he should tweak it. Yeah. I think Maresca got the team spot on, played the best we had apart from Colwill. Unfortunate. Yeah, no, exactly. We don't have a good left winger. Arguably, we don't have a good enough striker. But make of that what you will. Max speed, that's an incredible tactical triumph. Not sure what that means. Enzo being more central and Palmer more on the right, I think would have... Yeah, no, I agree, but you got to think of the defensive shape, bro. Like, look, because Palmer isn't going to make this run. Palmer isn't going to run here and help Reece James defend. It's not going to happen. So that means Enzo needs to not only run from here to here, he needs to run from there to here. We know he's already quite slow. So it's not going to happen. He's just not going to make it. And then you make Cucurella and Enzo cover ridiculous distances only to like try and stop each counter-attack. It's just risky. Like, I get what you're saying, but it's a back five cause, unfortunately. Where's the Ajax player with Sainato? On the bench. On the bench. Ribeiro breaks our model by being 25. I don't know, man. We signed the Dewsbury all. It's just he was 26. So, hijack logic, Bade could do. What is the status with Lavia? No one knows. Lucky 1-0 up, fair enough. Let's press the like button, boys. Yes, Raymond. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the stream, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. Crispy, I am fed up with him. And where the heck is Fofana? Yeah. Well, Fofana wasn't a bench at least today. I am not of the... Like, people were like saying rush Fofana in today, but no. Think back to how we did it with Reece James. This is how it's going to go with Fofana. He's going to play 20 minutes here. He's going to play 30 minutes there. Then he's going to start a game. Then he's going to not play for 2 games. Then he's going to start a game again. Then he's going to have a small niggle, which keeps him out for 2 or 3 weeks. Everybody's going to lose their minds. Then he's going to come back. Then he's going to stay fit for a bit longer. Exactly like it's Reece James. Just be prepared for that. James looked like he was struggling today, marshalling the back line more, I think, than playing his game. Okay. How would you say that he struggled, in your opinion, Mazza? Would you say, like, with commanding people or physically, or what kind of struggle did you mean? Palace are well coached and ahead of us in terms of match fitness. No need to overreact. 1 point up on last season. Not quite true, because we got 2 draws against Palace last season, so it was actually the same result. But yeah, no, I completely agree. People just ignore, like, they are 4 to 5 weeks extra fitness training they have. And people just think this doesn't matter. People think, oh, we have expensive players. You should win no matter what. It's not football, guys. It's not football. If that's how football were, Chelsea would not have won the Champions League in 2012. It just wouldn't have happened. Schooled Maresca. I just completely disagree. You got an 0-0 draw as the reigning FA Cup winners, as the reigning Community Shield holders, as the team with more than 3 times more preparation. I disagree. Physically, I mean, again, I said this at the very beginning. To me, what we saw today, it was just this the friendlies that we played against Leverkusen in Milan, that skewed everybody's mind. Because really, this is what it should look like when you have 2 weeks of preseason compared to teams having 6 or 7. Really, it should look like that, right? Because otherwise, you're like, why on earth does everybody else spend 6-7 weeks in preseason? If you turn up match day 1 and you're fine after 2 weeks, why do you think everybody has 6 or 7 weeks? That's why. But yeah, there you go. I need to talk about João Pedro again. I was very disappointed. I just was very disappointed. I'm so disappointed in every way, shape, or form. Like, some people say he's clearly not a striker. And some people say, you know, he's a left winger. But he stays up forward too much. He doesn't make runs in behind, but he also doesn't drop deep enough. And when he does drop deep, he's too weak to shield the ball, and he's too slow to make link-up play happen. At least today, that didn't happen. And Delap is kind of a similar problem. At least he stretches the defense a little bit more, and he's more physical. But I really, really felt today that we missed Nicholas Jackson a lot. Now, again, he would have been suspended today regardless because of his red card against Newcastle, obviously. So it's not like, you know, the transfer saga is costing us today, but we missed this link-up play today a lot. Now, is that a guarantee that we score and win the game? That if Jackson's better link-up play is there? No, absolutely not. We might still lose, or we might still not win. But I think it would have looked better. And I was, quite disappointed with João Pedro today. And what would I really expected from João Pedro when we signed him? Not the crazy things he did during the Club World Cup and even in those 2 preseason games. So there you go. That is the starting 11. We can look at some of the subs that we obviously brought on. Estevao, the most effective of those guys. I liked it. 7 out of 7 passes. Obviously kept it fairly simple for the most part, but you know, got the crowd going, gave us a bit of momentum by just taking this man on, playing a couple of good crosses and should have scored. Absolutely should have scored. Didn't, unfortunately. Had a tackle, okay, missed time there, but honestly, I like the fact that he was not scared of it. He just flew in, you know. both feet off the ground, scissor tackle. I like it. I think don't get scared. Show everybody that you're not scared, that they can't intimidate you. I think that was good from that perspective. So Estevao, for me, definitely the bright spark. Absolutely. Delap, you had one shot, didn't really see that much in the grand scheme of things. You can see the shot there. Not much to it. And Andrey Santos, I wonder how much XG that shot had. 0.31. Yeah, just put it way, way, way over. Is Andrey Santos left or right footed? Let me just check this. Right footed. Yeah. I thought as much. But yeah, it's frustrating. Oh, what has happened here then? Not what I wanted to do. There you go. We can go on the overall stats again for a minute. Let me see what a few of the people have replied. A poor game from him today. I think that's João Pedro. Was expecting much better, therefore dropping him in FPL as well. Yeah, you should. That's fair. Hopefully it's an important point in the season. We didn't lose. And I always wanted Osimhen. Yeah, you did always want Osimhen. But I don't think Osimhen would have been any better, considering my guy didn't even find agreements with Saudi clubs and, still has issues with his Turkish club as well. When he doesn't score, people say he isn't a striker, and when he scores, he's struck by region. Now, it's true. That's exactly it. But for me, the disappointing part isn't really his striker things. I think, like I say, he's doing too much of a striker. He's not selfless enough to make runs in behind to open spaces like Jackson constantly does. He doesn't do that. So that because he wants the ball himself, but he doesn't drop deep enough and link up well enough like Jackson does either to create space for others that way. So he's kind of just doing nothing. Really, and that was really disappointing today. João Pedro wants to stay deep, but today we needed the Lapois runs in behind. But why can't João Pedro run in behind? Tell me that. Why couldn't he run in behind? He's not as fast as Jackson, probably not even as fast as Delap, but he's still quicker than most centre-backs. Why? Why can't he run? I completely disagree with the idea that this is on Maresca, that Maresca told him not to run. I completely disagree with that. I guarantee Maresca wanted runs from him, and he just didn't make it. I mean, he made the sub for Delap for João Pedro too late. Maybe this part I agree with. But after the preseason that we had, there is no way you would have started Delap over João Pedro today. And if he did, and the game finishes 0-0, everybody's on his case. You didn't start João Pedro, who scored 5 goals in 5 games, so you're an idiot. There's no way of getting that right. Obviously, still a problem with the bridge, absolutely. Does Delap start West Ham? No, I don't think so. I mean, what I think you could try is play Pedro on the left and Gittins, and Delap up front and drop Gittins. That might be worth trying. But with only 2 strikers in the squad, that seems like a risky idea as well, because you need one on the bench, right? That's what I think. It's not just João Pedro's game. He wants the ball to feet. If Maresca wants runs, why not play the player that's willing to make the runs? Because Maresca wants a player that does both. That's why he likes Nicholas Jackson. I keep saying Maresca doesn't want to get rid of Jackson, by the way, just to make this very, very clear. Because Maresca loves that Jackson gives you both, runs in behind and dropping deep and link-up ability. Because usually strikers do one or the other, not both. That's why Jackson is special, just bad at finishing, and people weren't getting over it. Lacroix locked up JP and Munoz limited Gittins, absolutely. I agree, but players should have made it happen anyway. Exactly. João Pedro play striker. That's it. He was just crap today. What position can he play if he's not a striker? 9.5. But I disagree that he's not a striker. I think he is a striker. Maybe more so than he let on so far. But yeah, does all of that and he'll miss an empty. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. This is the problem. But excuse me, Jackson will allow us to create more chances elsewhere. Well, Gittins won't allow that. Skittins, while João Pedro currently allows that less. You are right. If he started the lap, then people would slag him. Exactly. And if we started João Pedro and we win, that was perfect. If we started the lap and we win, that was perfect. Right? People are just purely basing every word they say on the result. The result isn't good, therefore everything he did was wrong. If Trevor Chalobah scored from 7 yards, like any professional footballer should, we win the game 1-0, no one cares. No one says Pedro was wrong, should have started the lap. No one talks this, no one talks that. It's simple, really. Imagine if Estevao comes off the bench and takes his chance, scores the winner. Imagine. Everybody's here sucking off Maresca, saying oh, look at this guy, perfect subs, winner coming off the bench and this and that. Again, we're buying bright and sloppy second, third choices. That is not the case in João Pedro's case, being second choice, third choice. But yeah, again, Brighton, that's true. But you got to say, Caicedo and Cucurella are doing fairly well, aren't they? So yeah. He will also get us a straight red card in the first half for miss a pass for open tapping. We need to move past Jack. This is very valid, Crispy. And when I say what we miss with Jackson with these other players, that doesn't mean that Jackson doesn't have faults. But the point is that we didn't improve on Jackson. Because yes, but also did João Pedro feel like to you was going to score today? Or Delap? Didn't to me. Didn't look any more dangerous in the air from crosses or corners than Jackson ever does. I'll get a red card thing for sure. That's obviously a problem. That's a Jackson issue, 100%. But that doesn't mean that the others are better. And in an ideal world, spending as much money like 60 million on João Pedro, you would have liked an improvement. And I'm not out here to just slag João Pedro anyway. It was phenomenal in the Club World Cup. He looked phenomenal in the preseason games as well. And I'm sure he will have a good season. I'm sure he will get goals, and I'm sure it will work out. But today just wasn't it, and he just needs to do more. And that's not me saying he's going to be bad for the whole time. I'm just purely judging today. And today, he wasn't giving us enough. He wasn't giving us enough deep runs, and he wasn't giving us enough when dropping deep and trying to link up. After the hype of 1 month tournament, back to life, back to reality. Yep, exactly. This is something that was bound to happen. It is a new attack. Then we need some time to properly gel together. Exactly, Nene. Very good point. And one of my big issues with what we did this summer, because I understand that we needed a few improvements in attack. Absolutely understand that. But we just did too much again. We just did too much. Like, we changed the entire attack other than Palmer. Well, and Neto, I guess. But, Neto wasn't a starter at the beginning of last season. Only became that through the season with Mudrik's ban and, Madueke having a few issues and this and that, right? So, yeah, it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. Let me see if there's been anything interesting posted in interesting comments by the manager. What? Okay. Yeah. There's not too much, but we can take a quick look at Pys' tweets to look for a couple of comments that have been made after the game. Here we've got Maresca and Acheampong, very, very good. We already showed some confidence with Josh last season. He dealt well with Mateta, and overall he had a good game. He did. Just 2 misplaced balls, unfortunately. Is it worrying Chelsea spent big again in the attack, but struggled against the lead block? Jamie didn't struggle today. This is not surprising at all. I don't understand why people are surprised by this. This is so blatant. On Tosin, he had a physical problem. We don't know for how long. Well, before the game, he said, hopefully he's back next week. So let's see about that. And then he was asked, you mentioned Tosin is the only one who can play Levi's role. Are you worried about his injury? And then he said he already spoke about that. So you can hear from there, Maresca has been very firmly told, you're not getting a centre-back. Very firmly. So there you go. What was wrong? Sorry. Now let me see what people have said. The red cards thing was recent. Why are people talking like Jackson always gets red cards? Well, he did get 2 red cards, one in the Club World Cup and one in the Premier League in the space of 3 games for him. That is a bit stupid. What was the team that started as Leverkusen? We were clicking and Maresca does this lineup. But were we not clicking against AC Milan in the first 9 minutes when we were 2-0 up? It was the exact same team that started today, except Acheampong for Tosin. I don't understand. What is it with that City can make a statement like that against Wolves, but Chelsea, after a tremendous preseason, failed to deliver? What's that difference coming from? Shasaib, I can tell you in a great detail this answer. Number one, Wolves are a much, 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 much worse team than Crystal Palace are, like much worse, much, much, much worse. Wolves are certainly one of the 5 teams in my head possible to get relegated, for sure. And also, they had a week more to training. I don't know, but I think the big deal here is Wolves' quality and Palace's quality simply not being the same. In all honesty, this Crystal Palace beat City and Liverpool. They are good. Exactly. Caicedo took time for people to appreciate him. And Cucurella also, whereas Sanchez came in 3rd choice. The first, Pedro was behind Welbeck, a striker behind Mitoma. And now Chelsea's number 1. And then good enough. Well, for Caicedo and Cucurella is definitely more than good enough, bro. And if people, were just not harsh on Caicedo and Cucurella to begin with, they wouldn't have got as much hate either. But yeah, I mean, I don't like a signing from Brighton either. This is why I was not necessarily buzzing about signing João Pedro. But yeah, anyway, all of this will make time. Nonsense makes no. All of this will take time. Nonsense makes no sense. Everything takes time. Will we ever win? We will make new signings every window. Will they? They will always need time. This is my issue, H. This is why I don't want us to make so many signings every window for exactly this reason. Because yes, it will take time every time. If you change half your attack every time, it will take a few weeks and months every time. That's how it goes. It's been I don't know how many years, and Chelsea can still beat the team with a deep block. Still can't beat a team with a deep block. Yeah, sometimes we can. Sometimes we can't, I guess. I think Maresca was lazy. He should maintain the same energy he used in varying tactics like he did against PSG. Yeah, but he did use varying tactics. The tactics just didn't work. And against PSG, they worked. So you're like, oh, amazing against PSG, and not amazing today. It's not that simple. Had more rest than we did. But I mean, a week, right? It's not that dramatic, but still. Of course, we're lucky to have Cucurella. Caicedo, I agree, they're world class now, Chelsea. Okay, very good, very good. Whenever we have players that have now become ready to win, like Caicedo and Kuku Palmer, now we'll have to wait longer for new players to get ready. And when they're ready, new ones will take time. Exactly. This is exactly my issue. It's exactly my very issue. But guys, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Now, honestly, in my head, I was actually trying to keep this more to like half an hour. But yeah, clearly my mouth and my body, my brain had the urge to like keep speaking because I missed this. So I'm really glad for all of you guys that have turned up. Obviously, we wish that there was more people watching. Hopefully, we can make it grow again after a bit of a hiatus, obviously. But those of you that did turn up today, I appreciate you guys a lot. Like I really do. Appreciate you for talking in the chat, being active in the chat. Whether you disagree with me or agree with me, like H or whatever, or sometimes Mazo, or even could you criminal, even Raymond as well. Whether you agree or disagree, perfectly fine. I'm happy for you guys to be here, talk, ask your questions, make your points. Let's have a discussion about it. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, we're back next week. I'm going to be trying to be active during the week as well. I can't be sure about tomorrow because I'm probably recording the podcast with Pys. So link to that is down in the description. That still exists. That has not stopped during the summer. Chelsea Unfiltered. We're currently on episode 51. Episode 52 will be recorded tomorrow. Get on that. Link is down in the description to Spotify and to Apple Podcasts, whichever platform you prefer. Get on that. Like I say, new episode on that. I will be very much trying to be back for the stream on Tuesday or Wednesday, the very, very latest. But yeah, shout out to all of you boys. Shout out Jasaib. Thank you for the stream, Lars. See you next week, hopefully on a positive. Big up, Lars. Big up, Laurenz. Big up, H. Take care, my guys. See you soon. Take care, boys. Appreciate you all. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I will see you next time.